These are some poems that I wrote when I was in my 20s, my early 20s through my late 20s, and they deal with aging, my grandparents, my parents, myself, and I just thought it would be nice to share them with you. The Last Rose, Chinese Restaurant, Valentine's Day, 1999. I took my last sip of green tea, read my fortune for a third time. Someone will appreciate your artistic talents. And as I was about to leave the booth, a stranger stood over me, staring at my red bouquet. "You look just like a beautiful bride who just came from her wedding," the gray-haired man said with a sparkle in his eye. I blushed. The man wouldn't leave. He just stared at my bouquet blooms like tiny red butterflies suddenly returned to memory. He said to me, "My wife, may she rest in peace, had always planted roses, always planted all her life in our backyard, but they never grew. Oh, how she labored over them, cherished them, loved them, adored them, gave them everything roses need to survive. But they withered, petals falling, melting in the sun, year after year. But there was this one rose, growing apart and wild from the others, that no one had planted. Year after year, that rose bloomed, and my wife ignored it, only tending to roses that refused to live. The year my wife died, that one last rose still blossomed, and from it that spring came dozens and dozens more wild roses. From nothing, from one rose." After the man left, I just sat there, thinking about his story. I am my family's last rose, the one that was stubborn, red petals poking the sunlight, the one that blossomed too late for the other roses to see. Hitler stole my family's roses, trying to survive, petals clinging, dangling, until they were taken away. As I leave the restaurant, my friend suddenly turns back to the table and pulls a rose from a vase. He slides it into my hand. I will not be my family's last rose. A new garden of roses is waiting for me. I want to be the first. This poem is called I Ask the House. The last time I visited her empty house was when she died after the funeral. It's been 3 years. I remember how it rained and snowed at the same time as the casket was lowered into the dark, muddy ground. There's a little ritual I go through here at Grandma's house, inviting like a familiar friend. I look through all of the dusty photo albums Grandma kept on a high shelf. As if at a museum, I view all of Grandma's sisters, the relatives I never knew, Aunt Basha, Aunt Silly, Aunt Marie, the ones the Nazis got to know. Their eyes glow a faded sepia. They stare as if they know me, as if they know I'm looking, eavesdropping on their lives. I feel guilty as I pass each smile, page after page. They never could imagine being taken away naked in a cattle car. I want to warn them. I close the album, walk down the long hallway, touch the fading blue and gold wallpaper. This is what's left of them now, a stale shadow of their lives. Will I become a withered photograph in some distant relative's forsaken album? I ask the house. Peering into the hallway mirror, I see Aunt Marie's smile. Tombstone. We walk down the dusty cemetery path, my father and I, in search of the remains of our family tree. As if searching for buried treasure, my father hunts for a name on a stone. "Here she is, Mary," he proudly calls. "Come here, I found your grandmother." I read the familiar name, Meri Harary. "Look, Mary, that's your grandmother." My father smiles, gazing down at the stone, as if she were sitting there, smiling back. "No, it isn't," I say, touching the cold marble. "It's just a stone. She's not really there." I remember the story she told me of her childhood in Egypt, climbing the steps of the pyramids in Cairo. I remember her stories of Ellis Island. She sat alone in a tiny cell, waiting for days, refusing to eat. Her memories have become mine. It's not her. My father's smile disappears, and I repeat, why do you have to keep saying it's her? He just stares at the stone waiting, as if expecting something to happen. I wonder now if he can see her, sitting by her tombstone, her smile and her long fingers indelible in his memory. I wonder if he can hear her voice now, explaining that the tombstone isn't her. I think to myself, maybe I said the wrong thing. I understand what you mean. It's sort of her. No, you're right, he says. It's just her stone. As he walks away, my father turns around. I know he still sees my grandmother sitting there. He waves goodbye, as if she were about to leave a second time. This is the last poem. It's one of my favorites. It's called Old Already, and it's exactly what my grandmother how she used to talk to me. It's funny. She had a German accent. Ah, I'm old already, my grandmother sighs, as she glides on red lipstick, lines faded blue eyes with black pencil, smooths on pink rouge. Now she is ready for breakfast. We walk down Avenue L, Brooklyn, past salons, laundromats, dress shops, gazing through each tiny window, and we arrive at the corner luncheonette, the one with the $1.25 breakfast special. We sit in our usual booth by the window, and I think about what she said. Grandma, you're not old, you're still young. She smiles at me and tells a familiar story. Did you know I met my husband when I was 14? Henry was 20. When we walked together, everyone screamed at him, "You're going with a child, a child. You should be ashamed." Can you imagine? I didn't care. I was only 14. Now I'm old already. I don't know what to say to her. At 15, Grandma has shown me how it feels to be old already, to look back on your whole life and see how it zoomed by, as if you were an onlooker, watching yourself live, and then somehow you find yourself transformed, old already, and you don't know how it happened. Someday, in about 60 years, when I'm 75, I'll walk with my granddaughter and talk about boyfriends. I wonder if I'll also feel old already. You want? My grandmother offers me her bagel. No, I have my own, see? Ja, aber ich soll kein Bagel. I smile and ask her to please stick to one language, and she laughs. Henry always said to me, "What you did to the English language, what you did." He told me even when I was 14 years old. Can you imagine? As I look into my grandmother's eyes, I wonder how long it will take to be 75. How long it will actually feel.